Saitama, being already one of the most powerful characters in popular anime, also happens to have the most visually impressive feats for any anime character, barring legends like Gurren Lagann. Even a classic anime like Dragon Ball with its planet and galaxy busting shenanigans doesn't come close to the level of finesse and power that the creators of One Punch Man can convey in both the art and fight choreography of the manga. And One Punch Man fans can only hope and pray that the upcoming third season of the anime adaptation of those fights is done justice, because I don't even know what I'm going to do if it ends up being trash. However, despite his mind-blowing feats of strength and speed, it's obvious to any reader that the depths of Saitama's incredible power have barely been explored in the story, both in terms of its variety and destructive capacity. Even in his fight with Garou, who could replicate Saitama's strength to match him blow for blow, the resulting explosion from their clash was massively nerfed in range by Blast and his team, and even then, it still led to the visible annihilation of thousands of stars and galaxies. So who knows what would have happened if Blast failed to redirect their energy? Could it have wiped out the whole universe, maybe even the entire multiverse? These are the kind of questions I want to explore today. I want to figure out, both narratively and logically, where on the hierarchy of power in fiction Saitama is going to end up by the time the story of One Punch Man is over, using statements, feats, and a bit of power scaling. In my first video, I explored the nature rather than the extent of Saitama's power in order to gauge what he is potentially capable of, and I think I gave a reasonable argument as to why I think the One Punch Man power system makes Saitama more akin to a character like Mr. Mixie than he is to someone like Superman. That is in terms of the nature of his abilities, not his overall power. I had to clarify that before the DC fanboys get the wrong idea and decide to come after my family. In this video though, I want to further explore the actual level of strength that I think the author intends for Saitama to have based on various pieces of evidence and dialogue present in the story. There are two factors to consider in order to figure this out. The first thing is the cosmological structure and size of the fictional setting of One Punch Man. We want to know the size of the multiverse, how many higher and or alternate dimensions there are in the story, etc. Extracting these details will enable us to gauge the theoretical ceiling of Saitama's power, assuming he scales to the entire cosmology by the end of the story. This is the most conservative and most reasonable chain of logic. If we know the size of the cosmology and we know Saitama should narratively be capable of destroying all of it, then we can fairly determine what level of strength Saitama will show us by the time the story ends. However, if we want to go the crazier but more interesting route, then the second thing to consider is how powerful the existing characters are or are supposed to be and what abilities they have. Most important among these characters is God, but we'll get to him later. First thing, however, is that you have to understand that the central idea and theme of One Punch Man requires Saitama to be stronger than any character he encounters in the story, both narratively and conceptually. Saitama is an endgame character who's merely doing side quests now in the story. There's no chance that he'd lose against any other character within his world because he has literally broken the system of power. Even when he was fighting someone who should have had every possible advantage over him in terms of hacks, martial arts skill, and combat experience, on top of having copied Saitama's own power, Saitama still managed to prevail without getting much more than a bunch of scratches, if any at all. So we can safely assume that Saitama is immune to and skills above every character in the story and their respective abilities. Anyway, let's begin by scaling the cosmology. First of all, a universe in One Punch Man is at least the same size of our universe. Not only is that a fair assumption to have due to the fact that the author has referenced the occurrence and science of real-life cosmic bodies and events in the story such as Jupiter, Io, and Gamma Ray Burst, but the popular artistic rendition of the observable universe as we know it is also partly depicted in one of the cover pages. Secondly, it was revealed to us by Genos and later confirmed by Empty Void that there are infinite variations of each universe being created endlessly, similar to the Mini World's interpretation of quantum physics, which suggests that every possible outcome of an event in the world creates a branching reality where said outcome exists. Hence, we have infinite universes with 3 dimensions of space and 1 of time, all transcended by a higher realm of existence referred to by Empty Void as hyperspace. In dimensional tearing, which I'm not really a big fan of, but whatever, that would make the One Punch Man verse 5-dimensional, and it classifies as low complex multiversal on versus Battle Wiki, which I've found to be the most popular tiering system for most power scalers. But I find that to be kind of the more boring route to go down. I think we can make Saitama way stronger, and in order to do that, we have to talk about God. You see, this entity is shrouded in so much mystery that it makes it easy to either meet-ride him thinking he's going to be the strongest fucking thing ever, or downplay him thinking it's not going to amount to anything special at all. Nonetheless, based on the little info we have on him, we can extrapolate how strong he is, even if it's a bit of wank, and by extension gauge where Saitama will skill by the end of the story. Starting with this statement from Blast. Here, we learn that interference from the higher dimension where God is located ignores size, distance, and energy. Essentially, what this means is that attacks from God's dimension have unlimited range, they ignore durability and are completely unavoidable. However, that's merely a conservative interpretation of that statement. You see, the word size by definition also refers to the magnitude or the physical dimensions of an object. By that definition, it means that interference from God's dimension must be capable of affecting any target, regardless of its dimensionality and the magnitude of its dimensions. This tier of power that transcends dimensionality itself is classified as autoversal by the standards of Versus Battle Wiki. For those who aren't power scalers and don't know what that means, an autoversal character is a character whose power or existence exceeds any concepts of space or physical dimensionality, giving them power infinitely beyond any multiversal or hyperversal threats. It's obvious that Saitama is going to beat God by the end of the story, hence he's going to scale to this tier of power if it's proven to be true down the line. And it's further backed up by the fact that Geno states that Saitama can transcend space, time, and causality if he needs to. So to conclude, if you go by the more conservative path of scaling Saitama to his current cosmology, he's going to end up as a 5-dimensional multiverse busting threat. But if you go by the more liberal path of scaling, he might very well end up as a being whose power is beyond the very concepts of space, time, and dimensionality itself. So I've given you the facts, I've given you my ridiculous ideas, and you've seen me meet-rise Saitama in all kinds of positions. Where do you think Saitama is going to scale by the end of the story? Is multiversal a good estimate, or is that even too high for you?